state. So it says that Mukhya Bhakta does it and we have to do it basically. Sarvada it's at all times, in all places, worshipped. Bhagwan eva bhajaniya. So at this point in the spiritual journey, the aspirant would have crossed over, so to say, the limited ideas of God and reached to that essence of Godhood, which is Bhagwan, which is Ishvara. It doesn't mean that he or she has no more any devotion to his or her Ishtadevata. It is there. But it's transcended the absolute dependence and rested, so to say, on Bhagwan, which is the Ishvara, creator, sustainer and destroyer of this universe, who is the self of all. That Bhagwan, that alone is to be worshipped. Now that Bhagwan is to be worshipped sarvada, at all times, in all places. That means there is no distinction between secular and sacred. Whatever we are doing, even the most mundane of actions like eating, drinking, taking bath, all these actions, even these actions they offer to God and worship God even through all these actions. And God Himself says, Yat karoshi yadashnasi, yat jihoshi yadasi, yat tapasyasi kaunti. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, everything you offer to God. That is the attitude of this bhakta. And that's why this bhakta has no distinction of place and time for worship. Everywhere, at all times, this devotee is worshipping God. And Sarva Bhavena is in all ways, within, without, everywhere. It is God and God alone. God is the self of the bhakta, inspiring his or her actions. God is also controlling the forces of nature and has become the whole world. And God is in the hearts of all other beings. Thus, this worship of bhakta goes on continuously without any break. The whole life is transformed into an act of worship. And as a result, the bhakta becomes nischinta. Nischinta means carefree, free of anxieties. Anxiety because that is the attitude of a bhakta, that bhakta looks up to God alone, all actions in a spirit of worship and service, interacts with all beings and things as manifestations of God, and accepts everything happening as the will of God. So there is no scope for care and anxiety in the bhakta's mind. And nischintata is automatically happens, so to say. We have to be careful here. Nischintata is not the goal of bhakti. We don't take the path of bhakti in order to become carefree and free of anxiety and get some little happiness. That is not the goal of bhakti. Bhakti is for God. Bhakti is for its own sake. These things come by the way. So that distinction we should remember. That is not the goal. Being free from anxiety is not the goal. It just happens. Happens because of that attitude of the bhakta. So this is what we should aspire for. That is our immediate step, so to say. Immediate goal, so to say. We should be able to live a life like this. And for Mukhya Bhakta it becomes natural. Now next sutra is about how this Mukhya Bhakti culminates into Parabhakti. Parabhakti is the goal. So Narada says, Sakirtyamanaha shigrameva avirbhavati anubhavayati cha bhaktan. That is the sutra, next sutra. Some is that Bhagwan, Kirtyamanaha, when worshipped, when we sing the praise of the Lord, Kirtana, Kirtyamanaha, bhajana, worshipping, serving. When the Lord is worshipped, Shigrameva avirbhavati. He manifests very fast. Narada says, Shigram. Without delay, Lord will manifest when we call on God. Not only that, Anubhavayati cha bhaktan. He will make us realize Him. He will make the devotees realize Him. He will grace the devotees. So that is the sutra. It's a sutra of hope, no doubt, because Narada said Shighram. As we call, God will immediately respond. But it's also a reason why we need to introspect. That's very important. This sutra makes us introspect. We'll see how. So, Kirtimanaha, that is when we worship God, when we do Kirtana, when we pray to God. So this Kirtana can be of two, three types. One revolves around the Swarupa of God, the real nature of God, our own self and the self of all. What is the Swarupa of God? That becomes the center of this Kirtana. Swarupa Kirtana is there. Then there is Rupa Kirtana there, how God looks. And devotees get mesmerized by the beauty of God and they sing the glories of the God, extolling his form. There is Rupa Kirtana. Then there is Guna Mahatmya Kirtana, the glory of God, Avatar Leela Kirtana. Like that, there are so many ways of this Kirtana. So Kirtana is not only of one type, it's of many types. And when we worship, when we conduct our activities in a spirit of dedication unto God, there also our bhava is based on different concepts of God. We say God is inspiring us from within to perform these actions, or God is the controller and owner of this universe, so we worship Him. This is all God's glory. We participate in this God's Leela. So, various ways God can be worshipped. This Kirtana can have various aspects, various forms, so to say. But all of these, end of it, the goal is we are calling on God to come and reveal its nature to us. That is the goal of Kirtana. We are calling on God in various ways to come and show Himself to us. That is what Kirtana is about. All sadhana is about that only. Various ways, various means, but the purpose is same. We want God to reveal Himself to us. Even if we perform all actions in a spirit of dedication to God, service of God, what is the goal? The goal is that we want to realize God. We want God to reveal Himself to us. So that is the goal of Kirtana. So we are calling on God in various ways. And Narada says, so Shigrameva Avirbhavati. So Kirtyamanaha Shigrameva Avirbhavati. When called upon, God will immediately come. But in our case, God is not coming. That is the point. And that's why I said this is, on one side, it is a sutra of hope. On the other side, it a lot of scope for introspection. Why is God not responding to our call? We have been praying and praying. Why is God not responding? On the other side, Narada is saying Shigram. Immediately He will come. But in our case, life after life, we have been calling and there is no response. So these Bhakti Shastras, they give a lot of examples, This is Yashoda calls on God. This is Krishna, and immediately Krishna comes in front of her. Why does it not happen in our case? So that on Swamiji, 2-3 instances he gives, 2-3 points he raises. He says definitely it's a fact that God is merciful. And what Narada has said, Shigram, that's also a fact. God will immediately come when we call upon Him. But if He is not coming, there are certain obstacles. From our side, some things need to be done. There are some obstacles from our side, and that's the reason why God is not responding to us immediately. So these obstacles need to be removed. Then only God will immediately manifest. So God's compassion and the fact that God immediately responds is a fact. It's a given. It's true. In our case, it is not happening because there are obstacles in it. What are the obstacles? Swamiji says there are kakaras, kakaras. That is the word starting with ka. Kakaras are there, he says. The two kakaras we know, Guru Maharaj talks of Kamini and Kanchana. These are lust and greed. There are two kakaras, two great obstacles. And he adds one more. He says Kirti. Kirti means fame. We want name, fame, appreciation, praise. We want it. And we are entangled in these three kakaras, so to say. And there are many more, but these three are most important. Lust, greed, and fame. The desire for fame is the last infirmity of the noble mind, it's said. So even noblest of minds, they fall for this fame, and that is the last infirmity. So there is this lust, there is this greed, and there is this desire for name and fame. Which, if you think about it, you feel it is foolish. It is foolish to really strive and aspire and work for this name, fame, appreciation, and praises. I say it's foolish because when you think about it, we see how foolish it is. When we leave this body, the kind, whatever praise people sing of this personality, it is of no use to us. Absolutely no use to us. We will have no identification with this personality. So what people, how they glorify this personality, it is of no use at all to us. The identification with this personality is gone. We are in no way going to hear what people are going to say. So post-mortem glory for the person who is striving for it is foolishness. It's not going to help him or her. Even while living, the appreciation and praise of people, it is so fragile. Today they are singing praises of someone. That person commits one small mistake and that person becomes a villain. It doesn't take long for people's opinion to change. And secondly, it's such a slavery to the people's opinion. To depend on others' opinion and praise and appreciation of us is such a slavery. So this kirti is one of those kakaras. These three, they are great obstacles. Mind of these three obstacles, and for that we need to discriminate. We need to pray. So again, so to say, one of the antidotes for these three kakaras is another kakara, which is Kirtana, which Narada has told. So Kirtyamana. So you want to counter these kakaras, Kirtana, worship God. But along with that, we have to practice discrimination. Discrimination, dispassion, control of the senses, this is necessary. Along with this, we have to practice the Kirtana. Tattu Vishayatyagat, Sangatyagat, and then Avyavritta Bhajanat. So Bhajana preceded by Vishayatyaga, Sangatyaga, that is one way. One way to counter these obstacles. These obstacles are there, no doubt about it. So there is one, these Bhakti Shastras, they are full of so many stories. So there is one story where, so all these gopis, they were very jealous of this flute of Krishna, because Krishna always keeps it with him. Never for a moment does he let go of it. And these gopis are jealous of this flute. So one day they somehow managed to steal it from Krishna and take it to the forest and then start questioning her, what is this? You are made of a bamboo tree, which is, so to say, lowest of trees. It has no fragrance, it doesn't give fruits like mango and all that. It has no fragrance like sandal. But an ordinary tree, you are made up of that. You are full of knots. You have no sound of your own. And then you have so many holes in you. Still, why is it that Sri Krishna is so fond of you? And then that flute says that, yes, I agree, I am from a very low quality of tree and I am full of knots, granthis, and holes, defects and all that. But I am empty. There's nothing in me. And that's why Krishna uses me and infuses music into me. So I am empty. So we have to make ourselves empty of these kakaras, of these egocentric drives. Unless we make ourselves empty like that flute, God will not fill us with His music. So that is the one obstacle, these kakaras, is our own egocentric drives. Secondly, we have so much of egoism, ashraya. Anything we want to do, we have resources, good, we can do it. I have my own strength, I can do it. I have this, I have that. Narada himself said, Anyo Shrayanam Tyago Ananyata. Depend on God. No doubt we should have the best of things and people, to accomplish things, to accomplish work, to lead our life peacefully, we should have all resources. But over and beyond that, we should know that all these are useless unless there is grace of God. And God's will alone is finally going to dominate. In the Shiva Mahimna Stotra, there is one shloka, which is Kriya Daksho Daksha, that it is describing the uh, yajna of Daksha. It seems in that yajna, the best of people were there. All the purohits and best of material and best of people, adepts. But still that yajna did not reach its fruition. It was against the will of God. So this ashraya we have, our own ego and other people, this ashraya we have to transcend and depend on God. That God's will finally, we have to surrender to God's will. We have to learn to surrender to God's will. As I said, we should have best of things and resources to accomplish anything or to lead a peaceful life, to lead a successful life. To lead a successful life, we should have best of resources, put our best efforts, but we should know that over and above this, it is God whose will is supreme. And we should surrender to God. So this ego, that is the second obstacle. The first is all these kakaras are there, you see. And second is all these, this ego, this dependence on the world, without dependence on God. And the third obstacle, again, this Bhakti Shastra, is we have aparadha. Aparadha not in the sense of, in the way it is generally understood. Generally, aparadha is some kind of mistake. This is not about that. They have their own meaning of aparadha. What is the meaning of aparadha according to this Bhakti Shastra? This is apagata radha yasmat. Apagata radha yasmat aparadha. So from where Radha has departed, apagata, that is aparadha. What is this Radha? According to this Bhakti Shastra, Radha is a yearning for God. So we have this aparadha. We have lost, so to say, this Radha. We do not have Radha. We do not have this intense yearning for God. So this lack of yearning, that is another obstacle, so to say. Sri Ramakrishna says, people shed jugfuls of tears for things of the world, but who weeps for God? So freeing the mind from these kakaras, from these egocentric drives, depending on God, and trying to have that sincerity, that yearning. When we give up all ashraya, automatically yearning will come. So these three are, so to say, the obstacles why God doesn't come shigram, why God doesn't manifest immediately, respond to our call immediately. Though God is eager to respond, God is waiting to respond, but there are so many obstacles. Obstacles created by us in our previous lives, in this life. We have to work on these obstacles. And then Sakirtyamanaha Shigrameva Avirbhavati. He will manifest himself. This manifestation of God and Anubhavayati cha bhakta. He will make us realize him. He will make devotees realize him. See this here also how this Bhakti Shastra, everything is God's grace. Anubhavayati. He will make us realize. It is not that bhakta will realize, but the sutra says God will make us realize him. So that is the grace of God, and it is always there. You know, there are different kinds of yogas and all that, and different systems depend on, center around different entities, so to say. They say this karma yoga depends on the karta. I take charge and I do things in a disinterested way. Jnana yoga depends on pramana, the knowledge. But bhakti yoga depends on prameya, that is God. It is God alone who is making us do things, taking us forward step by step. So anubhavayati, avirbhavati, anubhavayati. One Swami used to say, How do we know we are progressing in the spiritual path? How do we know? And he says, you will start remembering God without any specific effort on your part, not when you are doing japa, not when you are meditating or singing and all that, but see, just a person who loves food, for no reason he will be thinking of food, or seeing something he will remember food. Like that, when you start remembering God, almost for no reason, or with very little suggestion from outside, then know that you are progressing in spiritual life. So this smarana, Ishvara smarana, it will come on its own, and that is a sign of progressing in spiritual life. So this anubhavayati cha bhaktan. So this even anubhava of God, according to this Bhakti Shastras, there are various stages. There are stages. There is this bhava of bhajana, intense love of God and worship of God, thought of God, that becomes consolidated, so to say, and devotee is able to feel the presence of God in the world. Outside his or her body, he is able to feel the presence of God. One may say, how can one feel presence of God outside? The answer is, if we can feel the presence of God within, why not outside? Because the objection is, we see the world through our eyes, hear it through our ears. How can God be felt outside? The reason is, no doubt we see it through eyes and through our ears and nose and all that, but in all these perceptions, the agency of the mind is involved. It is all these senses plus the mind which give us the perception of the world. And if the mind can see God within, why not without? Outside what we are seeing, it is nothing but our own mind. That mind only is helping us see things outside. So if we can see God within, why not outside? So devotee, on account of that consolidation and depth of bhava, is able to feel the presence of God outside in other beings. He or she feels that he is or she is living in the world of God. That is called the salokya. Salokya. God and devotee living in the same world. Devotee living in the world of God. Like that, there are stages. Then there is samipya, where all things, it's not only world of God, but God has become everything. Even all the things are nothing but God's manifestations. Like the salokya, samipya. Then there is sarupya. The devotee feels that he or she has become like God, like God. So like that, there are stages according to these Bhakti Shastras where this anubhava of God happens. And these are not the ideas, we have to understand. We imagine these things. We say we are interacting with God, but it's an imagination. We are trying to impose it. It has not become a reality for us. But for bhaktas, it's a fact. It's a reality. These bhaktas feel that they are actually interacting, dealing with God, living in the world of God, interacting with God. It is their experience. Just as we have the experience of this world, they have the experience of God. This anubhava they have. And the last of these is sayujya, where the devotee becomes one with God, which is same as parabhakti or jnana and all that. So this anubhavati, all this, God will make us go through these stages if we are sincere and if we get rid of those kakaras. Right. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.